Hello to my loyal wolf pack, Charlie Black 20 back again. This will be the final video on the Miracle of the Andes, or otherwise known as the Andes plane crash, where I will be covering what was really different between the original book Alive and the newer book from 2011, Society of the Snow. Now, to start off, the original book was made in 1974. Society of the Snow came out in 2011. So you have a gap of over 40 years. Well, about 35, give or take. 35 to 40 years. There have also been other books written by individual survivors like Nando Parado, Roberto Canessa, Carlitos Paez, Pedro Algorta, and Coches Inciarte. I am not sure if there are other books that the survivors wrote. Oh, Eduardo Strauch. But overall, the two main books are Alive and Society of the Snow, where you get the perspectives of each and every survivor, as well as the perspectives of some of their families and the rescue corps that were searching for them, as well as some of the people who helped them along the way, like Sergio Catalan, the muleteer, who first found them at the river. So one of the things that struck me was how different the books were. I know there's been a passage of time, the survivors have changed, their outlooks have changed, and their way of viewing the past has changed. Where in the original book Alive, again, made only a year, 2 years after their accident, they really, it was written directly from the survivors almost immediately after it had happened. So they're very open and closed-mouthed about a lot of it. They give flat details. They just give the facts unvarnished. They're not trying to really put their personal feelings into it so much as they do in Society of the Snow. As well as there are a lot of events that are covered in a way more pragmatic and slightly negative light, you might say. Like the portrayal of Roy Harley and Pancho Delgado in Alive are really negative towards them. And Society of the Snow really tries to show that these boys were struggling, that their story was the same as the rest of the group. They just had harder obstacles or a different perspective than the others did. But they're still part of the group because they all went through this together. So Alive also really covers what the survivors did to survive starvation, how they made their food source last, what it tasted like, and the arguments about food that they might have had, or that they did have, in a very unvarnished way, and how the conflicts between them were so quick and abrupt and ended just as quickly. And that they really just were, it was really about, Alive was about their struggle against the mountain and survival. Whereas Society of the Snow is more about how they reflect back on it and how they have come to terms with it and how they now view their lives that they need to pursue because of their time in the mountains rather than just the simple survival facts. So in Society of the Snow, they really cover their spiritual connection to the experience, to their beliefs, and how they now use that to operate in the new world that they return to as survivors and as heroes in some cases. And we see how they just react to the world around them when they get back. Some of them react more quietly, some of them react very forcefully, and others are afraid. not because they're afraid of like consequences, but because they don't know themselves compared to society anymore. Their experience has changed them, and they don't know how society is going to view them anymore, or how they should act in society at the moment. And it takes many of them months or even years to change. Carlitos Paez becomes a drug and alcohol addict, and his survivors, friends, force him to go into rehab a couple of times. And now he's a very quiet man, living his life as best he can. Nando, when he came back from the mountains for the first time, he took some time to himself, and he embraced the party life in a way. Like, he would go from club to club, he would find girl after girl, and his friends were really upset by this at certain points. Like, when they saw him going to in the newspaper that he was going to host that he was going to be a judge on a beauty panel, a bikini swimsuit thing, they asked him not to do it, and he immediately dropped it. He's like, okay, my friend said I should not do it, I won't. But he didn't understand the why he shouldn't. And he relates in his book that he wrote in 2006 that one day he went to a pub where he used to go with his best friend Panchito Abel, who had died in the plane crash a couple days after, the day after the plane crash, that he was waiting for him to arrive, and when he didn't and realized that he wasn't coming back, he just started crying uncontrollably. And that's when he changed, and he went to work at his father's hardware store and really embraced the worker life. And then he met Jackie Stewart, who is a NASCAR driver, and learned how to become a NASCAR driver and just did it for the rest of his career. Meeting his wife, Veronique, marrying her, having kids. And a lot of the survivors in Society of the Snow describe how they reintegrated back into the society in a way that they did not do in Alive. So you get a more in-depth look into the survivors' personal accounts, especially now that they've had time for introspection. And one of the things in Society of the Snow that they really cover, which is why the movie really does the perspective of Numa Turcati, is that in Society of the Snow, the book, they really emphasize, nearly every survivor talks about Numa, and all of it is positive. They never denigrate him. They never say he didn't do anything. The only thing they had that was be negative against him is that he used himself up to save the others and did not reserve any energy for himself. And so that is what they say led to his death, is that he put everything he had into helping them escape, and that left him nothing for himself, which is what contributed to him passing away and being the last one. That he was well loved, he was strong, he was just somebody they knew they could count on that should have escaped. And that his passing really was the final catalyst to get the expeditionaries moving on that final journey. So that's why I think he was given the point of honor in the movie that came out on Netflix and was really good. So you really understand the perspective of these survivors individually way more in Society of the Snow than you do in Alive, which is way more about the survival, the day-to-day, and covers a lot of the debates they had between them all about how they should take care of things at the crash site and how they should do different things. And it always covers each moment of death is covered in Alive, whereas in Society of the Snow, it's much harder to cover each one because each individual couldn't cover them all. So I believe that both books are very good reading, and they are inspiring and hopeful, as well as just being so honest, absolutely brutally honest in every way possible. So I recommend reading Alive first and then reading Society of the Snow. You can go and watch the movie Alive, which came out in 1993, which is the Americanized, and I put Americanized version, retelling of the story. And Society of the Snow really just hits home because it is in Spanish, you have Spanish actors, and you really dive into the interpersonal working of the survivors and how they came together as a group rather than butting heads at times. So this is the final video. Thank you guys for listening, and take care, my Wolfpack.